right, so I started the stream. All of the things are being notified. Everything's making noises, so that indicates that we're good to go here. Holy crap! This thing is huge. I should redo this thing for the chat, but whatever.
That's what she said.
Welcome to 2005, everybody. So this is Sports Goofs. This is our 23rd episode, and I'm once again joined here, Francisco, by the my good buddies Charles and Andrew. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
That sounded pretty provocative.
Hello there.
Yes.
I'm into Star Wars memes now, so I should say hello there.
Yeah, there's a lot of trailers coming out. There's a Detective Pikachu one that popped out. I'm like, oh, I am way too excited for this.
Actually giving away special edition Detective Pikachu cards if you go to see the movie in theaters.
Yeah, I think I'll probably do that. So guys, long live Pikapool. That's right, BU Canada. Welcome, sir. We've got some hockey on tonight. We got 2 Game 7s, Boston and Toronto, Vegas and San Jose. In what's looking to be one of the more interesting NHL playoffs, and probably since somebody had mentioned it, probably since the '93 playoffs, where that a ton of lower seeds made it to the next rounds, and there were a ton of upsets. We got 2 NBA games. I think one is an elimination game. And then there's the 2-2 series between the Spurs and the Denver Nuggets, and of course Major League Baseball. I think I think all the teams are playing today, or there's 15 games, but one of them is a doubleheader, or 2 of them are doubleheaders, or whatever. I don't know. Regardless, yeah, we got sports on. So good evening, everybody. So I don't know. Should we start with Charles' surprise? Should we just jump right into it? Because the hockey game hasn't started. I'm not really we're still waiting on that. So Charles, we know we do our weekly wrestling segment with Charles, and he's been a good sport about it. It's probably the highlight of his life because he gets to talk wrestling and just have a complete stream of consciousness pop out. So we're going to introduce our newest segment, actual graphic, and we're calling it The Cage with Charles. So it's on screen here. The Cage with Charles. We got the Greco-Roman style font, along with the WWE logo. So we will be receiving a letter from Vince McMahon to cease and desist for using his copyrights and his trademarks and whatnot. And we keep getting copyright strikes on YouTube for using all the clips, but who cares? We're not making money off of this anyways, unless you want to, Vince McMahon. You know, there's always a way, right, Charles? There's always money out there. So
you can always just hire us. It's okay. We'll be part of his social media.
part of his social media barrage to make wrestling great again. All right, so Charles, I had sent you a very interesting clip that I need you to explain for me, for the audience, what the heck happened on Monday Night Raw, because that was very weird.
Okay, so I'll go into detail. As we know, as I always preface every segment that we start out as wrestling is a soap opera. It's mostly men and women in tights beating each other up and dancing and doing ballet and telling a story in between. But part of a soap opera, for those who watch General Hospital, One Life to Live, Port Charles, whatever have you, what name you, whether it was a CBS, ABC affiliation that you like, there's always that horror season, that horror element, especially during Halloween time. And that, unironically, gets infused into wrestling. You have the kind of mythical wrestlers, you have the horror wrestlers, the ones that always stand out are people like The Undertaker, Kane. But then you get some mistropes like the Boogeyman. They had Hornswoggle, who was a little leprechaun dude, and then we have Bray Wyatt. Now, for background on Bray Wyatt, I actually like Bray Wyatt. I feel that he doesn't get the push that he needs. He has the physical attributes. He's a great charismatic talker. He is the son of former IRS wrestler named by the IRS Irwin R. Shyster back in the early 90s, because when stereotypes were beautiful. He has a brother in WWE, also known as Bo Dallas. So Bray was brought into from development into the main roster about 6-7 years ago as a cult leader, playing off like the True Detective season 1 kind of feel. And the thing is, his character really went nowhere in the last couple of years. He's had some claim fame. He was a tag team champion. He also head up to being a one-time WWE champion, which was a short reign, but it was a good pinnacle for him because it was well earned in the storyline. So he would do things. He would have his cult figures like Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, Braun Strowman. He tried to persuade people to come to the dark side like John Cena and Daniel Bryan. The guy can act. He can go. But the problem is in the WWE is two things. If you're not someone who can really sell merchandise, or if we can't get you over on a gimmick, you get put on the shelf because there's so many wrestlers, we don't have stuff to do. So Bray, recently before he came in, looking like Mr. Rogers on a psychotic break, was...
And with longer hair.
And a big old jack belly. He was tag team with Matt Hardy. Yes, that Matt Hardy is still around. And they won the Raw Tag Team Championships. Matt got hurt. He needed surgery. Things kind of went on the wayside. And Bray, they had nothing to do for him. So typically in WWE, when they have nothing to do for you, they get rid of you. Or they don't get rid of you, but they shelve you. So Bray's been out for 10 months. So this was his reintroduction. The last couple of weeks, he had some vignettes. You think he was going back to the creepy stuff, and then they unleashed this whole chainsaw loving massacre tubby man.
I'm looking at it now. It's on the screen.
So, I personally loved it. But this is their way of reintroducing him. And if it wasn't anybody else, I don't think it's probably going to flop anyway, because Vince McMahon has this bad tendency of panicking when something doesn't go over the minute it happens. But Bray has the in-ring skills. You just gotta give the right kind of story. And for this to work, you have to match him with somebody else that fits that role. Right now, it's not going to be Undertaker, because God knows I love me some Taker. I don't want to see Taker wrestle right now. He's 52, he can't go. The other guy who might be able to contend to it is Aleister Black. He's another kind of like cultish, mythological persona, but he's on a different brand. But this is a way of creative giving a guy to have an opportunity to do something different. But it's also a reminder that wrestling is a genre as well. Sometimes you get your soapy love stories. Sometimes you get your rocky moments. I'm the underdog. I made it there. I try to do what I can. I've been here waiting for my moment. And then sometimes you get your pure slasher films. I mean, this is not the, back in the day era, but I would really love it in this era that he comes out with that damn chainsaw scaring people. Like, go all in, man. Go all in as if Leatherface.
I mean, I think it kind of worked because I saw it on Twitter. It was actually one of the Twitter moments. That's the reason I'm like, Charles, explain yourself, please.
Yeah. It's just, because sometimes these are performers at the end of the day. These are carnies at their best. And you want to appreciate a person who's that devoted. And Bray has the gift for gab. He can be a hoss in the ring. He can let it go. So I'm excited to see him have a moment and then have it absolutely fail because Vince panics. Because this has been Vince the last couple of weeks. Post-Mania love, it was great. And now he's like, oh, crap, what do I do? It feels like the ending of what's that movie with Dustin Hoffman and then Mrs. Robinson tries to seduce me, The Graduate, right? You know how they're coming in and he just stops the wedding and then everything's all happy-go-lucky and then they're sitting on the bus realizing,
what the hell do we do now for now? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it really sometimes it gets like that on wrestling. So that's the Bray Wyatt segment. And then right now in the wrestling world, WWE, they're still dealing with the aftermath of quote-unquote superstar shakeup where they sent some dudes from Raw to SmackDown to Raw, called NXT people. So now this allows you to have new storylines that kind of build in there, new rivalries, a rekindling of old rivalries, and new opportunities for people to succeed. However, as you see on the screen, you'll have guys who are always in the number one contendership conversation end up winning it, and they're going to have it. So what you're seeing, if I'm not on delay, is AJ Styles versus Baron Corbin. AJ Styles is now number one contender. He beat Baron Corbin. AJ was the face on SmackDown. He was a reigning champion for about most of his time there. 2-time champion.
Holy crap! There's a guy with a Marlins cap on that show.
They do exist. And then Baron Corbin. I thought Baron was going to win that match because
that clip. I'm like, guy's wearing a Marlins hat, the orange one.
You can find your brethren, Francisco. You can find your brethren. And then Baron himself, he retired Kurt Angle. That was around your time when you were probably still watching wrestling.
Well, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember him.
But what's good about the old school wrestling is the old school mantra of heat, and getting some heat.
By the way, was it Goldust? He also retired, right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So, as I've kind of mentioned in the past episodes, there's something called All Elite Wrestling, funded by the Khan family. It is spearheaded by guys who were not in the WWE promotion or had been WWE promotion but left elsewhere. Spearheaded by Cody Rhodes, Goldust's brother in real life, and the son of Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Also brought over from guys from like the Bullet Club and everything. So what happens is Goldust is like 50. Dustin Rhodes, he's not doing anything. He's left WWE before to go WCW. It didn't really go anywhere. Mm-hmm. He was more about a veteran presence. But what's happening is AEW. They're looking for TV deals, but they're still streaming pay-per-views. They're not having any weekly matches. They don't even have events yet. They're just trying to get pay-per-views, get the money to show. The rumors have been TNT and TBS, which is ironic because they're the ones who originally owned WCW, then Time Warner. Mm-hmm. But so they were having this whole, Cody Rhodes is going to have a mystery opponent in May at AEW Double or Nothing. You should watch it. And then you see who it is, and you're like, oh, it's Goldust. I don't really care, man. It's not Goldust. It's Dustin Rhodes. You lose because remember, wrestling is a story. Wrestling is a soap opera. You could have done a lot of potential with the brother versus brother arc, and now they're just going to have an unannounced match or now an announced match that has no story built into it. Look, I like and respect Dustin Rhodes as Goldust. He had a finisher called Shattered Glass or Shattered Dreams, which he would put two guys' legs in a turnbuckle and then kick them straight in the testicles, and it was great because he wanted to do it with friends. And he was also known as a very androgynous, weird character. So you talk about Bray Wyatt and his weirdness. Goldust was like the original weird guy in the Attitude Era and how he's willing to commit to it. He would come out in wigs. He would lick his lips. There was a triple threat match between him, The Undertaker, and Mankind. And Mankind's putting the mandible claw on Taker. And then Goldust comes out of nowhere and just starts licking his ear. It was just great. So, we talk about Goldust and committing to a character, Bray Wyatt committing to a character, and that's the thing to remind people for wrestling is that they're taking the bodies, they're being physical, but there's a character and it's a mindset, and they dedicate themselves to being that when they're a square circle.
Okay. Yeah. So, anything more from the world of wrestling, Charles?
I actually have a question for you.
Question.
Yes, I will answer to the best of my ability.
I want to get your take on Dean Ambrose.
Oh, yes.
For anyone who doesn't know, and I barely know, Dean Ambrose, it seems like he's done with the WWE. Okay. There was a big pay-per-view on Sunday, which was called The Shield's Final Chapter, which is The Shield, for those who don't know. See, I do know stuff about WWE. It's a tag team of Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns. And apparently Dean Ambrose is done with the WWE, so this was their last ride. So I wanted to get your take, because I've heard some rumors or people speculating that either he's just going to go to another company, or maybe this is some kind of long played out storyline where he'll eventually come back to the WWE.
Okay, so way of background, I'm a big Dean Ambrose fan.
I love him. He reminds me a lot of the old, kind of like, The Rock and Stone Cold, where they were larger than life and didn't really make normal sense.
Yes. He had a Cactus Jack appeal to him because he got his name in the indies out there by doing like hardcore matches, not death matches, but just anything in there that was very extreme. And what happens is when you get signed off from going to the indies, you got to learn the WWE way. You don't look at the cameras. You can't say certain things. You can't say belts. You can't say strap. You can't say this or this. You can't call people marks. It's a lot of structure, because really it's a tyrannical reign that is Vince McMahon. But the problem is Vince is a billionaire for a reason, because he hits lightning when he's hit lightning. Dean hit the crowd the most. He started on the faction with the Shield with Roman and Seth. He got himself going, and he had a good legacy. Multiple-time IC champion, one-time U.S. champion, multiple-time tag team champion, one-time WWE champion. Mr. Money Event cashed in on Seth Rollins, had some good pay-per-views. And what happened was his contract was run up.
Mm-hmm.
Vince makes him this 7-figure offer, like I think the rumor was like $1.5 million, and they're like, "Oh, this is great," and then Dean says, "No thanks." So everybody kind of freaked out, because they're thinking, all right, is he going to go to New Japan? Is he going to go to Ring of Honor? Is he going to go to All Elite Wrestling? Because he knew Cody and a couple of guys who used to be WWE vets going over there. And you ask me for my take, and I think the take is that this guy's been doing this not just wrestling professionally for the WWE, but he's been wrestling in the indies for such a long time, 10 to 15 years. I think the body has a wear down on you. And for the wrestlers on the road, they're going 300 days out of the year. And they get injured, and he's rehabbing. I think he's just burnt out. I think he's just done. I don't think it's a power play for more money, because I think you're paid in the upper echelon where you're making that much cash plus some benefits that come with it. I just think he was done. I also think he hated the creative process. There were rumors that he wanted to leave, and for those who don't know, Roman Reigns was diagnosed with leukemia back in October. He beat it. He was in remission. That's great. But they wanted to use the storyline because Dean turned on Seth, and turning, for the wrestling phrase, is just becoming the bad guy, betraying your friend. And in the promos that led afterwards, Dean would mention the cancer stuff. So I don't think he felt comfortable using the disease as a crutch to propel a storyline, or because maybe he felt it cheapened it, maybe he felt it was a disgrace, maybe he felt it wasn't appropriate, what have you. I think what happened at the end of the day is that he knows he's talented, he wants some creative freedom, and maybe he's just burnt out. So it's not one of those situations where I envision that he's gone forever. I think it'd be a year, 2 years, and then he comes back. His wife does work for the WWE, Renee Young. She's an announcer on Raw. So there's always an incentive to come back. But I think he just needs this time away. And he did come back from triceps injury, to which he was out for 9 months, and he came back around SummerSlam, so August of last year. But there's a difference between coming back from injury because you're yearning from it, and then coming back with this enthused, refreshing outlook and realizing that it all means nothing, because you're not happy with where your story is going as a performer. And you don't like the storylines that they put you in. So what they did was, this was when WWE is smart, because they're like, okay, you're leaving. Everybody knows you're leaving. We're going to infuse reality with the now in our storylines, and basically build up the whole last time ever. So, there's probably a lot of people who bought the shirts, who bought any kind of additional merchandise, who watched that Shield last stand or whatever it was, small pay-per-view live event over the weekend. I didn't, because I already knew it was going to happen. I'm not sentimental like that. And then after that was done, Dean's done. And what they did was, Seth is already your reigning Universal Champion. So for those who are trying to figure out what that means, imagine it as your main title holder. And then they put Roman onto SmackDown, and eventually he'll challenge the other main title on that brand. So it's a clean-cut effectiveness. And at the end of the day, it goes to show that, and he said in the interview, Dean did one, is like, listen, I can't be bought by the billion-dollar man. And I like it. It makes you like him. So when he does take those indie events, wherever he goes, if he goes to All Elite Wrestling or TNA, God forbid, or anywhere else, his reputation, that he's seen it all, done it all. And it's going to help whoever signs him. But I think he'll be back in a couple of years.
Okay.
Good answer.
Very thorough. This is like way over my head, but sheesh.
I mean, I tend to think that I don't want to say complex answers, but answers that have a lot of nuance to them. I think those tend to be the correct answer, and I think a lot of people, from what I've seen, and I didn't look much into it, they just kind of looked at it in one way, just the easiest route. Although I think I did hear some people saying that he would go with AEW in particular. So who knows? But if this is the end, it's kind of a bummer, because he was one of those wrestlers who would break the fourth wall, if you will.
Yeah.
All right, so that was our first actual cage with Charles. So congratulations, Charles, you have made it.
Thank you. Wait till I introduce mini segments in my segment.
Oh, and before we go,
segment section.
I actually wanted to, before we go, I had this thought in my mind going back to the thing with, what was it, Bray Wyatt is his name?
Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
That reminded me a lot of the barbershop segment from the 90s. It's kind of this
With Sean and Brutus.
Yeah, kind of this really campy side segment.
It has a little bit of that feel, and that goes back to the idea of that, wrestling sometimes has to go a little bit outside of the typical tropes and have things that are unique, and these are guys committed to characters. Bray's now Mr. Rogers with a chainsaw on angel dust. So if that can't sell you to watch wrestling, then I don't know what else could.
Yeah, I mean, it got people's attention, that's for sure, if it showed up on the Twitter moment. So, all right, Charles, thank you very much for that. Quick score rundown right here. The Marlins are actually winning. Holy crap, it's 1-0 against the Indians. 2-0 between the Reds and the Braves. The Reds are up. 0-0 between the Pirates and the Diamondbacks, and the same thing for the Orioles and the White Sox, and the Blue Jays and the Giants, although that's probably not anything anybody Toronto is caring about right now. Neither in Boston, because they're playing between Detroit and Boston as well, but I'm pretty unsure there's not people paying too much attention to that. KC and Tampa are still 0-0, and so is Philly and the Mets, and the Tigers won their first game of the doubleheader against the Red Sox today. However, it is 0-0 in Game 7 between the Leafs and the Bruins. 13:10 left in the first.
The game just started, so Blue Jackets scored a lot very early, so
it's the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's just things that could just happen. But we're actually going to cover that right now, because that's where we're moving on to. Also, the Magic are kind of getting spanked already between the Raptors and the Magic out in Toronto as well. So a lot of things happening for Toronto. Today, the Raptors can move on with a victory tonight. Then we've got, the Nets and the Sixers can also move on as well. Okay, so Stanley Cup playoffs. It's been great. It's been a great first round. It's like the storylines, the upset of the Lightning, the upset of the well, not really the Penguins as an upset, but still a sweep. Then you've got the upset of the Jets and the Flames, and then we've got Game 7s between right now tonight, and then another one tomorrow between the Caps and the Canes, and that great series between the Stars and the Preds. And the Preds no longer, maybe not being so happy with all their banners now. That mean nothing, according to Urinating Tree. But let's start with the Lightning, Andrew. Now, when last time we were here, the Lightning were in the middle of Game 4, and probably the best game they played of the series. However, it was for naught.
The score, what was it, 7-3 was the final?
Yeah, the score, the 7-3 part, was not indicative of the entire game.
There were 3 empty net goals, which, I'll be honest, I don't know why John Cooper. I get it. One empty net
after
goal,
the second one, it's just like
what's the point? After 2 empty net goals, it's like enough. There's no chance of you coming back, especially with the amount of time remaining. I think that last one was scored with 6 seconds left, so I don't get what the point was of pulling Vasilevsky again. But I don't know. He's the coach, and I'm not.
Well, he is the coach, and neither are we. But people have been analyzing it so far. I had mentioned to you that it must really suck to be Lightning PR, marketing, sales right now, social media accounts, because there's probably a lot of people not happy. People were burning jerseys.
I actually posted on Twitter about that to make it look like he's trying when he gets raked over the coals for the sweep later. That's the point. That's true.
And he signed a 3-year extension in March, just prior to this.
I actually posted on Twitter telling people to not burn their jerseys because and I mentioned this on a previous episode. I think it was on our hockey special.
Our hockey special, you said that you'd rather people donate their jerseys and things.
Exactly. I mean,
Goodwill or Salvation Army or whatever.
Like especially, T-shirts and hats. I mean, people I imagine won't really use a jersey if it's at Goodwill or charity, but you never know. But, T-shirts, things like that, people can use that stuff. So I find it ridiculous when people burn their stuff, or like even Toronto a couple of years ago, not this season, they were throwing their jerseys onto the ice because they were completely just sucking.
I'd rather they throw waffles onto the ice. Yeah. Does anybody remember that? I remember that.
I don't, but it sounds funny.
Okay. Actually, now I gotta look it up since keep talking. By the way.
So I think that burning apparel and things like that, it's stupid because you donate it, you get the ultimate. Ultimately, you're getting the same outcome, which is you are no longer in possession of said apparel. Was it the Green Men? Was it the Vancouver Green Men? That's what BU said, but I remember them doing the waffles.
This was back probably around that 2011, 2012. I think that was the season that this happened, where some very disgruntled Maple Leafs fans threw some waffles onto the ice, showing their displeasure for the team. So yeah,
I don't quite understand why waffles, but
Maple Leafs. Come on now.
That's true. That's a good point there.
So okay.
So anyway, my apparel rant is over. Although it doesn't just apply to Lightning fans. I mean, look what Cleveland fans did when LeBron left the first time and the second time. Pretty much whenever
LeBron leaves the city. I don't think there was much the second time though. Waffles are still edible.
And they would actually keep well because they're in a very low temperature environment.
Yeah, they'd be frozen onto the ice.
And plus, you can say, "Hey, I ate ice that was touched by whatever player."
Well, remember when Hammond for the Ottawa Senators when they went on that amazing run to the playoffs, and he was the Hamburglar, and they threw actual hamburgers onto the ice. Hockey's great, isn't it?
You've got catfish, octopi.
You don't get this in basketball or baseball or football where people throw random objects onto this playing surface.
Yeah, that's something. Well, I mean, you've got hats, you've got plastic rats, octopi, catfish, apparently waffles and hamburgers. Hockey is the wrestling of sports. Soon Ovechkin is coming in with a chainsaw.
Oh, he probably wants to chainsaw the refs after the last game where he had that goal waved off because they said that he pushed the puck into the net using the goalie, but that's for another time. Whatever, the Caps lost, everything's good. We got a game 7 between the Canes. I'm glad that they did that. Okay, but we're still breaking down the Lightning. So this article on SB Nation, very good article pointing out the reasons why the Lightning made an early playoff exit, and not just a playoff exit, just a freaking sweep. So we've got here their shot chart for their 5-5, and it's actually one of the biggest reasons why the Lightning couldn't do what they did the entire regular season. As you'll see on the left, you've got their shot chart from the regular season. The red indicates where most of their shots are coming from and where they're scoring their goals. And on the right, you have what happened in the 4-game series against the Jackets. On the left, you see that the Lightning, especially right there, right in the slot between the circles, in front of the goalie, they were scoring like crazy. And also back here, closer to the blue line. But during the playoffs, their shot chart, as you can see, nothing in that middle section, almost nothing. Maybe a little bit there on the top left, but it's all here in the back where their shots were coming from. close to the blue line, just kind of very low percentage shots. So far away, the goalie can see everything. Sergei Bobrovsky had a fantastic series, 932 save percentage. He finally came to play, which was one of the biggest criticism against him because he was always MIA when it came to the playoffs.
That's great for you guys, the Florida Panthers, who seem to be the front runner to get him in the offseason.
If they don't win the Stanley Cup. I don't know. He might stay after all this. Who knows? But what the Blue Jackets did was force the Lightning to shoot from the perimeter. On the right, you can see that. And those low percentage shots out there from the corner, low end from next to the net, those are really low percentage shots. They barely ever go in. So that was one of the things that was a key difference. So the Lightning also was the forecheck between that the Jackets employed. The forecheck, if for those who don't know, that's basically the pressure that defense puts upon the offense as the offense is moving through the zone. And the Jackets employed a 1-2-2 defense. Now, the Lightning had been flying around all season, just zooming past teams using their skill and their speed. What the Blue Jackets decided to do was have 3 layers of defense before they could even get to Bobrovsky. So rather than going maybe 3-2 or 2-3, instead of having 2 layers, is 1-2-3, and having those each layer be incredibly aggressive against the Lightning.
For those who don't really know what a 1-2-2 is, soccer fans will kind of understand it. But what that means is the team will have one player out in front, closer to the offensive zone, to what there would be their offensive zone. Hey, Mikey, welcome. You haven't missed too much, just a bit about wrestling. Now we're into hockey.
Marlins are up 3-0. What the hell happened?
Yeah, must be the new hitting coach.
That's true.
So 1-2-2 is you'll have one player that is up toward the offensive zone. You'll have 2 players in the middle, kind of dividing the ice in half, and then you'll have 2 players in the back. So it's not your typical 3-2, which is...
So you'll have your first forward in front, maybe your center. Then you've got your other 2 forwards behind them. And then you have your 2 defensemen. And then you have your goalie.
And what that does, if you have 2 layers, obviously it'll be quicker to break through because there's more open ice.
Correct.
But what's smart about having a 1-2-2 is... once you get past that first player, there's not a lot of ice to go through. I think it's better than the 1-3-1 that the Lightning used to employ under
Guy Boucher.
Thank you. Which is where obviously
who just got fired by the Sens, but
right.
For obvious reasons.
So that would be 1 player in front, 3 in the middle, then 1 in the back. So 1-2-2 is actually a very smart way because once you get past that first player, you don't have a lot of room to go in through.
All right, so that's another thing. So once again, this 1-2-2 defensive setup basically funneled the Lightning either to go through the corner. They just couldn't use their skill and speed to break through the zone and get to Bobrovsky quickly enough. Finally, there's one thing that was mentioned is that the Lightning defense. They weren't that bad. It wasn't that they, especially 5-on-5, it wasn't that they did bad. It's just that the Columbus Blue Jackets forced the Lightning to play their style of hockey. And so they're on an even keel offensively and defensively. Now, the issue with the Lightning was the breakdowns. They had breakdowns and odd man rushes that the Blue Jackets just took complete advantage of, and also complete advantage of Andrei Vasilevsky, who, wasn't on his game for this series especially compared to Sergei Bobrovsky. So those are just some of the reasons why the Lightning could not figure out the Blue Jackets and why the Blue Jackets just played everything to a T, especially games 2 and 3, where they didn't even let the Lightning freaking have a chance. The best game for the series was Game 4 and that was it. That was it. So that was the Lightning series. Andrew, I mean, you said that you kind of feel all right in hindsight.
I told you I was not going to talk about this. I think, considering how crazy and insane this playoff has been, and we'll discuss it a bit more in depth, but there is the potential that only one of the high-seeded teams is going to advance to the next round, and that's the New York Islanders. Although, I think from a historic standpoint, they were the underdogs, because the Penguins got Crosby, Malkin.
Yeah, exactly. And Chris Letang, and they've had the pedigree for the last few years.
They're the closest thing to, well, they are the dynastic team in the NHL right now, or were. If you take Urinating Trees' word for it, they're done. Which I think that's a little bit premature to say. While you've still got a crazy amount of talent on the team that knows how to win in the playoffs, but this has just been a crazy playoff season, so I feel a little bit better that the Lightning lost, but not that much, because if you're a 62-win team with a 100-plus goal differential in your favor,
40 goal scorers,
40 goal scorers, a guy that had 128 points, and the team had 128 points, you'd expect to at least win one game in the
which is
first
more
round.
for that at least the Flames can say that they won one game.
Exactly.
But speaking of that Islanders Penguins series, I'd said before, my brother-in-law was very much afraid of the Islanders because Barry Trotz is the Penguin killer. He is Batman.
He was the Capitals coach last year, and for a few years actually prior to that.
But some of the stats that I looked at, I mean, Robin Lehner had a 5-on-5 save percentage of .964. That's absolutely insane how much he did for that team. And the Isles penalty kill only allowed one goal in that series. So, and another difference that I was reading on Lighthouse Hockey, which is the SB Nation blog for the New York Islanders, is something that it's very intangible, and it's something that the Islanders will not have for the rest of the postseason if they can move on, is the Nassau Coliseum, because they were playing in their traditional old home where they won all those championships, and it made a big difference. It's a tough place to play. A lot of NHL players have said that when that place is rocking, it's rocking, and they're going to lose that when they go off to the Barclays Center and after the Brooklyn Nets lose tonight, and it's going to be all for the Islanders.
Wait, I thought all their games were in the Nassau Coliseum.
Only the first round will be in the Nassau Coliseum, so now it's over. The rest of the games will be in the Barclays Center, which is, as we know, is part of the worst venues for hockey right now.
Even the Stanley Cup Finals?
Even the Stanley Cup Finals.
Wow.
So that is where they're going to play if they make it all the way over there.
That's crazy.
All right, so that's the Islanders series. Last night, I watched the entire Stars-Predators game. Great series. I can very much tell you, and the Boston Bruins have scored the first goal right now, 5:31 in the first. So they are up 1-0. Yeah, they're splitting up their home games in general until they open up that new arena next to the Belmont Stakes. Okay. That game last night, overtime, that series, 4 of the 6 games were 1-goal games. Great setup for the Winter Classic next season. There's clearly some bad blood now between these two teams. You had one of the more interesting storylines for that was, I don't know if anybody remembers him. Of course, you should. Alex Radulov was a former Predators player, and there was that he actually left the team twice to go to the KHL, And lo and behold, he comes to this series. He's the villain of the series for Nashville Predators fans, and he has an amazing series. Already, if the Stars move on, he's a Conn Smythe candidate because he had 4 goals in the 6 games. Jamie Benn also very much had a great series, very disciplined. He did a lot of great hitting, but didn't overdo it to get penalized. He scored 6 points in the 6 games, so he's a point per game player as of this point of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then something I had mentioned to you, I don't know if the Lightning are kicking themselves for this, but Ben Bishop, who has gone through this before, .945 save percentage, and once again, 4 of the 6 games were 1-goal games, so that was absolutely huge for the Stars.
As I was saying before the show to Francisco, I don't want to say that we're kicking ourselves. When we traded Ben Bishop, don't get me wrong, it hurt because he's a great goaltender. But we had a very good backup in Andrei Vasilevsky who took it to a whole new level this season. And again, I'm talking about the regular season, not the playoffs. I just want to make that clear. We stunk up the joint. But Vasilevsky was a very good backup, and he showed that not only is that he can hold his own as a first line goaltender, the number 1 goaltender. I think it was just unfortunate that he had just a very bad. Well, he had a very bad postseason, but his team didn't do him any favors either. So I don't want to say that we're kicking ourselves because we couldn't have foreseen that Ben Bishop was going to go on an absolute tear. But more than that, we couldn't have imagined that Vasilevsky would be not great. I mean, it still hurts, though. I mean, I can't even imagine what it'd be like if we had Bishop and Vasilevsky, even, splitting the...
I mean, that was unsustainable. I was just saying... From a fan perspective, but you had to go with the younger guy. So it's now Bishop is doing well in Dallas. Dallas finally has a good goaltender that can actually push them forward.
And I'm happy for Ben Bishop. I mean, we had the whole Bish Please campaign when he was here with us. He was a great guy, great goaltender. Great person just to be around on the team. So I'm happy for him. He's a former Bolt and he didn't burn any bridges when he left. So yeah, I'm happy for him that he's being successful and he's on to the second round. But again, I like to think that I'm a bit more of a level-headed fan. Someone who wouldn't go ahead and burn their jersey or whatever. So that's just my opinion, though. I can't speak for the entire fan base.
All right, so then you had the Flames and the Avalanche. I don't even know what the heck happened to the Flames. That was incredibly disappointing for them. And the same thing for the Winnipeg Jets. But what I am glad about is that it knocks out 2 of the Canadian teams. So far, the only one left standing are the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Bruins are up 1-0, and I have a thing where I like seeing the Canadian teams not win the Stanley Cup. I like this drought that they've had since '93. In fact, you could say since the Florida Panthers entered the league, none of the teams have won the Stanley Cup. So it might be us. Maybe we are going to be forever cursed to never win the Stanley Cup, but it also means none of the Canadian teams will win the Stanley Cup.
Right. And the Maple Leafs, they haven't won since the 60s.
1967, baby. Since the league expanded from 6 to 12. So they cannot win in a league that has more than 6 teams. Well, they might have won it before the original 6 era happened, but, whatever. Who cares? That was back in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s when people were fighting wars and having, frickin' depressions and stuff. All right, so next, when we've got the Game 7 between the Knights and the Sharks, I had predicted the Sharks to be the Western Conference champion, but it's not looking so hot right now. They finally showed up to play for the last game, but who knows? It's Game 7. They're probably going to go to like double overtime, and the Knights will probably find a way to win. Who knows? But all right. And then tomorrow we've got the Canes and the Caps. I saw the whole game for
Las
that one
Vegas
as well.
Says BU.
I saw that whole game last night as well. Man, freaking Justin Williams, that Jordan Stahl goal. The Canes, I didn't think they'd make it this far. They've surprised us. I thought the Capitals would dispatch them in like 5 games, but lo and behold, we're at a Game 7 for tomorrow, and I can't wait. I'm hoping that the Caps lose because I'm really enjoying this ride. But I also made the prediction that the Caps would repeat. So if they win this game, I would feel much more strongly about that prediction if the Caps beat the Canes, because then because then from there the road would be looking at the bracket now, and this is also the weird thing about this playoffs. We have to figure out the brackets all over again because it's like who's facing who now. But so the Jackets are only waiting for either the Bruins or the Leafs. They will not have home ice at all throughout the playoffs, unless they face the Colorado Avalanche. That would be the only scenario where the Jackets would have home ice in the playoffs. The Islanders are just awaiting either the Caps or the Canes. The Avalanche will be awaiting and be heading off to either Vegas or San Jose after tonight. And we already have the first actual matchup between the Stars and the Blues out in St. Louis. They will have home ice for the next round. So that's what we're waiting on for the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I think that I looked it up. The Stars and the Blues are going to be is the only set right now. Set series.
And you said this is like their 13th or 14th time matching up against each other?
This would be the 14th.
Does that include
2-0 Bruins?
Oh gosh.
Oh boy.
So it's looking like Columbus might be heading to Boston, another good Boston team. Gosh darn it.
Man, I kind of feel bad for Maple Leafs fans because the Bruins have been the equivalent of the Penguins to the Capitals over the past few years.
They had that epic collapse in the other postseason series, if you remember.
That was really bad, but this looks...
Unless the Leafs find a way to turn the tables and create their own epic collapse for the Bruins, which would then start a chain of all Boston teams starting to suck after that. Like Kyrie would just... his leg will blow up, and then, the Red Sox will start losing, which will make Charles happy. And then Tom Brady, I don't know, has a weird motorcycle accident and no longer has to play. Just hoping that Boston sports just starts to suck very soon. I know BU's from the area, so he probably doesn't like that. But whatever. You guys have had it too good for too long. Tough to be a asshole. It's tough to be a Miami fan right now. All of our teams are either mediocre or awful.
He's talking about the insufferability. Toronto thing. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, no, Toronto is. That's my other thing with this series. Like, it's either the Boston team wins and it's like, crap, another good Boston team, or the Toronto Maple Leafs, who always plan the parade for the Stanley Cup before every season starts. The quote unquote center of the hockey universe, which of course, the Hockey Hall of Fame is there, and all that stuff. They have the freaking NHL War Room is over there, NHL Network Radio's there and stuff like that. But the Leafs having been they haven't even made it to the Stanley Cup final since '67. They haven't even played for the darn thing. Even the Florida Panthers have done that.
This film exists. It's called Let's All Hate Toronto.
All Hate Toronto.
It's a Canadian documentary film co-produced by independent documentarian Albert Nirenberg and Rob Spence.
You know what? Screw Toronto. Yeah, screw Toronto. Screw the Maple Leafs. Screw the Raptors. You know, who are up 47-29 on the Magic at this point. You guys aren't gonna have Kawhi. He's bolting for the LA Clippers after this.
If we were a real radio show or whatever, we would have little sound clips we could play, and one of them would definitely be the Kawhi Leonard laugh.
Okay. So yeah, all right, so that's anything more about the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Did we cover get Jeff Goldblum to play against the Raptors?
Okay.
I think we've covered all of the NHL
we've briefed through the series. There was the Gagarin Cup is over.
Well, we didn't. Did we cover the St. Louis series or
I personally hate the Winnipeg Jets, but that's just me. I call them the Losipeg Jets. I just personally hate the Winnipeg Jets ever since they left Atlanta, because their fans got really arrogant and annoying after that. So the fact that the Jets also have failed, both iterations of the Jets have failed to even make the Stanley Cup Finals, also brings me much joy. So I'm glad the Jets have lost.
Should we cover just briefly the AHL and ECHL series before we get to the Gagarin?
I just wanted to briefly mention them real
right.
quick. We got 9 minutes until our halfway mark. But yeah, the other playoffs, the minor league playoffs for hockey are going on, the AHL, the ECHL. Interesting about the ECHL though, for Florida.
Yes, so there are 3 teams in Florida. That's the Jacksonville Icemen, the Florida Everblades, which are based out of
Estero, which is basically Fort Myers.
Thank you. And then Orlando Solar Bears. Florida, and the ECHL has a very different playoff system where they have 16 teams, but it's 4 teams from each division, the top 4 teams. And then they play their way through. God damn it.
Oh, I love that it's on screen for all posterity.
Oh, boy.
I'm so glad I changed the font and everything too. It's like nice and bold and huge.
That's what she said. Anyway, so it's 4 teams, top 4 teams from each division. They play their way through. So the division final, quote unquote, which is the best team from the division, is the equivalent of the conference semifinals in the NHL. Anyway, so the 3 Florida teams are in the same division. Florida and Jacksonville played in the first round. Florida won 4-2. Orlando and South Carolina were the other series in that division. Orlando won 4-1, which sets up an all-Florida division final.
Just to BU's point, I think a lot of people are hoping the NHL restructures their playoff system.
I totally agree, BU.
Come the new CBA.
I totally agree. I absolutely totally agree. It has a similarity to the March Madness bracket, which I love. That's just me, though. I like that system. So, anywho, Florida and Orlando are in the division final. I forget who is the higher seed. I think it's Florida. But any event, this is basically the playoff version of which is the better team in the state. Florida eliminated the other Florida team, and then it's just the 2 remaining teams to duke out who is going to go to the conference final.
Okay, so he says that the Everblades are the higher seed in that series against the Solar Bears.
Florida's the higher seed.
Yeah. So okay. And the AHL playoffs is just starting up as well, right? I think the Lightning have reassigned some guys down to their team out in Syracuse. That's funny. Yeah, so it's I see right here. I'm trying to find the bracket for this, but you said the ECHL and the AHL freaking website are just really freaking annoying, and even their apps are really bad. So it's hard to follow. Somebody needs to redo it. Okay, maybe they should hire me to redo it, or just copy and paste the NHL one. I don't get why they make this all convoluted and weird. But there's a schedule up there on the top.
I had to do the wiki for ECHL.
Exactly. I mean, their website is just awful, but it's up there for everybody to see, and it's awful gory.
Something, and just to briefly touch on the AHL, because we still have the Russian playoffs to get to. Something I found interesting. So they're very early into the Calder Cup playoffs. There are 8 series, obviously, so 16 teams. Of the series that have played 2 games, which is 6 of the 8, all but 2. No, there are 4 series. Whatever, but basically a lot of the series, more than average, are tied 1-1. So I found that kind of interesting.
So the Gagarin Cup, CSKA Moscow won, correct?
Correct, and I believe that's their first Gagarin Cup win.
Okay.
They're a relatively young team, though. No, actually, I take that back. They're old. They were started back in 1946, but they've only been in the KHL since 2008. They just interesting. They play in the very uniquely named CSKA Arena.
Yeah. All right.
But anyway, CSKA Moscow are your. Pretty sure 2008 was when the KHL was founded.
Yes, it was, because the KHL is actually a fairly new league, and they celebrated last season their 10th anniversary.
So, and something interesting, CSKA Moscow. It had previous affiliation with the Soviet Army, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think it was like the Russian Super League or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
I think that might have been the name of the previous league that BU's mentioning right here.
The Soviet Championship League, which ran from 46 to 92, which I think that's when the Soviet Union dissolved. That was the top flight back then. Thank you, BU. CSKA stands for Central Sports Club of the Army.
Nice. Okay, so that should be our hockey talk, right?
Yeah, we've covered the main ones there.
Okay, so we've got a couple minutes of downtime. I just need a 2-minute conversation with you guys. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Absolutely not.
Charles? Yes. Willie, what the hell is going on here? What, you said yes?
A hot dog is technically a sandwich.
Oh, no.
You want to know why a hot dog is a sandwich?
Okay, Charles, explain yourself, Mr. Big Shot Lawyer. Argue your case in front of the Supreme Court.
How do you build a sandwich? You have 2 slices of bread, right? Ideally, or a loaf of bread, and you cut it up, right?
Okay, but there's no 2 slices. It's a bun. It kind of opens up, but it's not 2 slices. It's one entire object.
I'm gonna do 2 things to mess up your life completely right now. I'll do one. I'll do the easy one, and I'll do the one that hits to a lot of people's soul. So, you ever order a sub at Publix, Jersey Mike's, Subway?
I know where this is going. It's one continuous roll, right?
Oh boy.
Yeah. There you go. It's just a roll on steroids. First and foremost, you cut it up, you open up the bread, you fill whatever you want in there. I think onions are disgusting. People put in onions. Onions are part of a sandwich. You put in all these kinds of meats and delicacies and cheese. I can cut up the hot dog bun, put the hot dog, which is a meat, put the condiments in there, mustard, ketchup, which usually doesn't go on with sandwiches, but people are weird, any kind of sauce, dressing, salt, pepper, whatever. So there's that easy argument. You're welcome, bun on steroids. And here's the other argument, the one that's going to hit your soul. You ever been so poor that you can't really afford a hot dog bun because it makes no sense that the hot dog package has like 8 and a hot dog bun has 6, and you want to save your money, so you just buy your 99-cent Wonder Bread and just make a single or a double with the bread right there.
What, like you roll? Okay, so you have the actual sausage link, and okay, I don't feel like going to Publix right now or whatever. There's a slice of bread here, and Wonder Bread, whatever, regular old slice of bread. All right, I could just fold it, and it's kind of like the bun. Is that what you're making the argument about?
Yeah, that's not a way. Because I know people who just do peanut butter on one slice.
But it's still not a sandwich in the same sense because it's still one single thingy. And
I can agree with Mikey on the idea that we're talking about wraps or burritos. I'm reading as we're going, but before we go down that rabbit hole, on steroids, if you're gonna say that a foot-long sandwich,
but a wrap's not sandwiches. But I don't consider a wrap a sandwich.
I don't consider a wrap a sandwich.
But no, we're not talking about wraps. Before I go into that, I'm talking about like the hot dog bun and then like the sandwich that you get at Publix and all that other stuff.
Okay.
Versus if you're gonna classify a caste system of bread, then I got beef with that one. I can't do that one.
I use the term beef. That's funny.
We're all human beings, you guys. We are all kind of yeast-filled bread. Let's just love each other, because then we're going to create discrimination, because we're going to be haughty, and we're going to be like, oh, you are the butter bread from Sara Lee. Oh no, you are the bread with fry. Maybe bread shouldn't have the pumpernickel.
We all know we should be using potato rolls anyways, right?
Yes.
Potato roll is always a good option. Yes. So that's my contention. Now we went down a rabbit hole that's even. Oh well, Andrew, since you said no, please, for representation of the bread, of why hot dogs are not a sandwich.
Okay.
So you want my take on it?
Yeah.
This is very unlegal. An unlegal, not a very strong legal.
Don't worry,
argument.
this is the court of law that Mario was sentenced to in Super Mario Sunshine.
Right, but Charles just made a great argument, a legal argument, so I feel like I should be. These are the questions that keep me up at night. I don't know. This is actually I can sort of bring legal argument into this. The Supreme Court, one of the justices, when talking about what is considered indecent, whether it's porn or something like that, one of the justices, I forget who it is.
Pineapples on pizza.
Exactly. He said, I'll know it when I see it. So a very strong legal argument from a Supreme Court justice. Yes, Charles, you know what I'm talking about. So this is one of those instances where I know a sandwich when I see it, and I don't see a sandwich in a hot dog. But I want to kind of take this in a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole, if I may. The state of Colorado, their definition of a sandwich in Articles 47 and 48 of Title 12 of CRS, which I don't know what that is.
Hold on, I gotta put this on screen.
A sandwich is defined as single-serving items such as hamburgers, hot dogs, frozen pizzas, burritos, and chicken wings. That is Colorado's definition of a sandwich.
Okay, so Colorado has actually stated that is the definition of a sandwich?
Correct.
And they gotta know what they're talking about, because that's where weed is legalized and thus people get the munchies. So they need to know.
Exactly.
I knew Colorado was Colorado, exactly. Colorado.
Mikey just brought this up. A Massachusetts judge settles debate and this is from 2006. Wow. A Colorado judge says that a burrito is not a sandwich.
Of course not. A burrito is not a sandwich.
Panera Bread argued that a burrito is a sandwich, but a judge said no, ruling against Panera in its bid to prevent a Mexican restaurant from moving into the same shopping mall. Panera has a clause in its lease that prevents...
Why would Panera Bread even think that? These people actually make frickin' sandwiches.
I know. Panera has a clause in its lease that prevents the White City Shopping Center, and again, this is from 2006, White City Shopping Center in Shrewsbury from renting to another sandwich shop. Panera tried to invoke that clause to stop the opening of a Qdoba. But Superior Court judge...
Okay, Panera, first of all, you're in Colorado, so there's going to be tons of Mexican restaurants all over the place. Well, so what the hell are you guys doing?
This is in Massachusetts, this case.
Well, okay, this is Massachusetts. But either way, I mean, it's a Mexican restaurant. They're not serving frickin'... I haven't eaten a Panera Bread since 2009. So I don't even know what they sell anymore.
You remember the exact year that you last went to a Panera Bread?
Yeah, I was at Florida State. There was one across the street next to the Publix, and then I figured out what pub subs were, and that was over from there.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. They have very good broccoli cheese soup.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
All right.
Colorado law says bars are required to serve sandwiches and light snacks. So they used a very broad definition of sandwich to fit that. I mean, if you were taking the time to go through all that trouble to define what a bar had to serve, I think it would take not that much extra time.
As the completely impartial judge here,
right?
Since I posed the question, I'm on the side of a hot dog is not a sandwich. So Charles will be sentenced to clean up an entire Isle Delfino with only a jetpack of water, like in Super Mario Sunshine. You ready for that, Charles?
All I know is
he's AFK.
Wait, Mikey. The
what's the definition of is?
Well, I agree with BU. If you're going to go through all that, pizza is not a sandwich. I agree, and I think everyone would agree. But so 2 questions here. Well, 2 comments. 1, BU, I totally agree. If you're going to go through all that trouble to list all that stuff, just call it a single serving food item instead of a sandwich. That's 1. 2, Mikey, was it Mikey? Who was it?
It's like, oh crap, we're going way down this rabbit hole.
It's a calzone wrap.
The horror never ends.
I do think that a calzone is a wrap. And BU, the Massachusetts case was referenced in Fallout 4.
Wasn't there an episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza had to get one for George Steinbrenner?
I think so, yeah.
Do you know who would know that answer? What's his name? Flap.
Oh, frickin' Professor Grossman. There we go.
He
must love those Jets jerseys, by the way.
FIU law has this pre-bar prep class that you're required to take, or basically required to take at the end of your last year. And he is a huge X-Files and Seinfeld fan. The gross daddy lives on.
Oh, yeah, baby. Okay. Whoa, we have gone way over our 1 hour mark, actually.
But this was a fun conversation.
We could keep going with it, actually. We could just be food goofs if you want.
Yeah.
I
think we should take a small break, though.
Yeah, we shall. Maybe run. Actually, yeah, we should take it. We'll do the rundown later. So we're way past the halfway point, but that usually means that we do a word from our non-sponsors here, guys, and we promote the products and things and hot dogs and sandwiches and whatever every week. I don't know who wants to start. Not sure.
Charles hasn't started in a while, so I'll throw it to him.
Well, I think this is very apropos because here we are talking about sandwiches and pizza and what is what and what isn't. And you know what? My non-sponsor sponsor week is something that goes in my gut because when I want to use bread effectively, I got to use bread. And when I'm using bread, I think to myself, what's the best sandwich I can make? And the best sandwich I can make with bread is a hot dog. So my non-sponsor sponsor is going to be Doom Dogs, a restaurant that's in South Florida. I don't know how far South Florida. We recently got one in Martin County. They are a franchise that focuses on hot dogs and other goods. They provide, I believe, Nathan hot dogs. They're pretty cost-effective. The food comes out quickly. I like the atmosphere. I've been there twice. I had like a New York dog and a couple other stuff. It's pretty filling. I like it. And you know what? If you have to ask yourself, if I really want a hot dog, not even a hot dog, you guys, if I really want the greatest entity of a sandwich, let me go get a hot dog at Dune Dogs. I think you'll enjoy it. If not, you can always just go buy a Nathan's. But my sponsor is Dune Dogs for the hot dogs they serve. Promo code the realest sandwich in the world. Thank you very much.
All right.
I'll let you go next, Francisco.
Okay, so my non-sponsor is a market establishment called Aldi's. So I don't have much money after I pay off my student loans. I'm basically poor. And yes, I am a lawyer, but I am a very poor lawyer at that. Okay, I'm Matt Damon in that one movie. So with Danny DeVito. So I go to a supermarket. Look, I can go to Publix, and Publix is fine. They have their deals and stuff, but sometimes they can get a little expensive if you start going a little crazy after that. Yeah, I might have to be an Orlando Solar Bear and
Damn it, Charles.
and or I could just be an Orlando Easter Bunny and just beat people up on the streets. I could just do that as well. But by the way, that guy is wanted in New Jersey.
Yes.
So he's the hero Orlando deserves, but maybe not the one it needs. I don't know.
All I know is I stay in touch via Facebook with a lot of my Orlando friends. I'm from there originally before I moved down to Miami to go to law school, and everyone is just loving this whole Easter Bunny thing. Although I'm sure things are going to change a little bit once it gets out that this guy is wanted in New Jersey, and
he's got a pretty significant rap sheet.
But it adds to the kind of general sense that Florida is the United States' sewage dump. All of the weird shit and ne'er-do-wells somehow filter down into Florida.
It continues the Florida man mythos.
Oh, no question. This is right. Well, I don't know if you consider this Florida man because I guess he lives in Florida.
I mean,
now.
A Floridian. The definition of a Floridian, I don't even like it. It applies to anybody who just decides, you know what, this is where I'm gonna make my life from now on. Mm-hmm. Whether they're born into it or they just decide to live here for whatever reason, we all become Florida men at that point.
And actually, he's from Zephyr Hills, so that is Florida. So yeah, this is a very much Florida man type story.
Personal jurisdiction dictates he is the Florida man. Thank you, Charles, for that civil procedure thing. I already hate Professor Foley already. Okay. So continuing on, Aldi's has a great selection of food. They have their own generic brands, which is why things are on the cheap. I think they're a German company that has spread out all over Europe. Actually, in UK, they actually have a program where you can bully your kids to stop playing video games. So in Aldi's, the Aldi's in UK, they're like a huge supermarket out there. Okay, out here they're just starting out and all that stuff. But in the UK, for some reason to get kids to put down their Fortnite and come downstairs and actually eat dinner with your family, they are using a program where they will recruit, I guess, really elite gamers to go online and face off against your child and beat the crap out of them in Fortnite or Call of Duty or Super Smash Brothers, so that they can go downstairs and stop playing and talk to the parents who don't want to do actual parenting. It's completely ridiculous. Online gaming. You can't just put it down when you're in the middle of a game. You can't press pause. I mean, freaking people are shooting at you. So, whatever. But anyways, Aldi's in the U.S. doesn't have that, but they have a bunch of great stuff. They had this stir fry that I bought, this generic stir fry, but it was really good. I just put it in my freaking air fryer, and I put a bunch of crap in it, put some chicken in there, and boom, I had a great meal. And all that, I bought I don't know how much food for $80, but it'll last me for 2 weeks, especially because I scavenged by the end of it, and I'm like a freaking vulture or a California condor. Little callback to our hockey extravaganza. But yeah, Aldi's is absolutely great. Yes, the U.S. Aldi, kind of basically Trader Joe's. Yeah, exactly. They don't. you have to pay to use the shopping carts, but it's just like a quarter. You stick it in and you can pull
Right.
it out. And then they don't have plastic bags, which is nice and environmentally friendly. They sell the reusable bags, so they're very Eurocentric. And there's a lot of them here in Miami, which is great. There's one close to my house. That's the one I go to, and I just love shopping there. It makes food cheap, and I can eat good food. So promo code, and I could actually buy hot dogs with buns that are not sandwiches out there. So just to make a point, so promo code, bullying your kids.
Alrighty, I like that promo code. For once, and this is on par with the rareness of having Doug in an episode. No, Cesar. That's a bit more accurate.
Well, actually, he might actually be here in person next month.
Really?
Yeah, so we might actually have him here on the show here in person.
It would be the first time that we've had a 3-person Sports Goofs show.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
in person.
buy another microphone.
Yeah. Side non-sponsorship to Blue Microphones, who are which is the microphone that we use in the show. Anyway, my non-sponsor of the week is 105.9, which is the classic rock radio station in Miami. About a month ago, I was just sitting out in the middle of a parking lot. Or let me tell you the reason why they're my non-sponsor.
Just loitering.
Loitering, yeah. I won 2 free tickets to the Aziz Ansari show in, let's call it Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Well, technically, it's
Broward County.
Right.
Where the Panthers play.
It's technically, I think, in Hollywood.
I think they technically say they're Hollywood.
Right. But it's in Fort Lauderdale. Anyway, I was just parked out in the middle of a parking lot waiting to pick someone up, and on the radio was Doc Reno, who was their early to mid-afternoon personality on the radio. Really cool. Announced that they were giving away 2 free tickets to the Aziz Ansari show on April 20th, and caller number 10 would get the tickets. I have terrible luck with any sort of things like this, or any sort of giveaways, whatever. So I was just sitting there mulling. I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to call. What's the harm? So I call, and by the stroke of luck, I was the 10th caller. And, it was awesome. I was honestly kind of surprised. Someone picked up the phone, and I've done this before, and the person just quickly, almost at the speed of those people that announce the little disclaimers in commercials where they're talking at 100 miles per hour.
Yep.
Usually they'll say, like, "We're sorry you were not the 10th caller, goodbye." And then they hang up. But the person picked up and said, "Hello?" And I said, "Hi, who is this?" And he said, "It's Doc Reno, and you're the 10th caller." It took a lot for me not to say, "Holy shit, I won," because I knew that there was the possibility I might end up on the radio because they tell the people, or they play a clip of the person. But it was great. I got to talk to him. I said, it's a pleasure getting to talk to you. I listen to you all the time. And he said, thank you. And he saw my area code, which is 407, which is Orlando. That's what the 7-second delay is for. That's true. But yeah, I know to be nice and to not curse on the radio.
Only on this show.
Exactly. So he asked me what I'm doing down in Miami, and I said that I'm here for I moved here for law school and haven't left. And he said, I kid you not, he said, I have a lot of respect for you getting through that. And I was like, wow, Doc Reno just gave me a compliment. That's really cool. So we had a nice couple of minutes chat. He told me, you'll be hearing from the marketing department in a little bit. And about a week ago, I get the call saying your tickets are ready. So I head on over to the iHeartMedia complex, which is out nearish Davie, which is a suburb of Fort Lauderdale, and picked it up. The people were really nice there. And I had Francisco and I went. I had a fantastic time.
Oh yeah, no, it was great. They're renovating the whole Hard Rock Casino, but we can talk about that another time when they finish it. But the show itself was great. His opening act was pretty funny, and Aziz himself was actually really, really funny. I'm glad I got to see him as another one of the comedians that I've been able to see. In my life.
He picked up on a lot of. I think he's watched him before, because there was a lot of things that he picked up on a previous reference or whatever, and I didn't know. So, but in any event, I had a lot of fun, and I just want to thank again 1059 for. Well, I want to thank myself for timing it correctly to get to the 10th call. But more importantly, I want to thank Big 1059 for doing the contest, for Doc Reno being so nice, and for the people at the iHeart Media Complex for being nice and chatting with me. They were really a pleasure to be around. So that's my non-sponsor of the week. I know that took a while, but I had a lot to say about it. I think it makes up for the 2-second quips I say whenever I'm trying to make something up at the last minute. Anyway, my promo code is BIG1059.
Okay, so that's it. So, okay, Big 1059. Thank you very much for the tickets. It was a great show. And all right, so let's get the score rundown. I believe the Maple Leafs were able to score a goal, so now it is 2-1 out in Boston. In the second period, the Orlando Magic and the Toronto Maple Leafs are not the Toronto Maple Leafs. I started the Raptors. I got mixed up with the two Toronto teams. Mike, by the way. Anyways, they're up 20 points on the Magic, so I'm assuming that the Magic are not going to be playing more after this. So sorry, Andrew. Yes, I am echoing that it's no longer there now.
My call dropped.
Okay.
So I had to turn it back on, but unfortunately it defaults to my mic being active.
The Sixers are up 13-0 on the Nets, so it's likely the Nets will be out of the playoffs by tonight as well. You guys can go golfing together along with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm going to keep doing this for the rest of the offseason, dude.
Bring it on, baby.
We got Coach Q. Things are going to be great in Florida.
Bring it on.
For the Panthers, at least. The Marlins are up 3-1 on the Indians. And we've got a guy on first, so it's the 8th inning. The Braves and the Reds are tied 3-3, 1-1 between the D-backs and the Pirates, 4-0 for the Orioles. I don't know if Chris Davis got a hit. He did. Holy crap! Chris Davis is now the MVP of the league.
He has been on a tear since he got his first hit.
Yeah. The Giants are up 3-1 in Toronto against the Blue Jays. Trying not to mix all the teams now. The Argonauts. They're against the Argonauts. The Red Sox and the Tigers, nothing, but the bases are loaded for the Tigers right now. 4-0 for the Rays. The Rays continue their winning ways.
Excellent.
Playing the Royals out in St. Petersburg. The Mets are up 3-0 against the Phillies. The Cardinals are up 1-0 against the Brewers out in St. Louis. I guess we can go on to baseball because we are talking about baseball. We can go to the NBA after this, but that's because really the games aren't that compelling. There's a 20-point lead. There's a freaking 14-point lead. It's 6:34 in the first, and the Nets haven't even gotten a point.
Seriously?
Dear Lord. All right. I think the only game that's going to be good is that Spurs and Nuggets game out in Denver. What is this, football season? It's Canadian football, sir. Okay, I'm a huge Saskatchewan Roughriders fan. Because I watched Corner Gas for a few seasons. Actually, all 6 seasons. And the movie. And the cartoon show that they made. Which I'm hoping gets a second season. But I digress. All right, baseball. So, I don't know what the standings are. But
Are these updated standings that we have on our sheet? Or are these from... No, I think these are from last week. You have poor taste in football teams. My team is... I forget what... I think it's the Argonauts, because a friend of mine who used to be on the UCF football team plays for them right now. Troy Davis, if you want to look him up.
Nice.
And I didn't know him as well, but there's another guy on the Argonauts, I think, that was a very good player for UCF. Honestly, I don't really care that much about pro football, but I'll follow them because my friend's on the team.
Okay, so what are the standings right now? I'm not sure. I know the Marlins are in last place. That's the only thing I know for sure, that we are still the worst team in baseball. But we fired a head coach, and that might have woken up some of the players. All right, so players of the week, though.
Rays are still in first place in the AL East.
Mm-hmm.
Twins are in first place in the AL Central. Mariners are in first place in the AL West. Mets in first place in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Pirates in first place in the Central. Very happy for urinating tree, I'm sure. And the Dodgers are in first place in the NL West.
Okay. All right, so our players of the week this week, we have Joey Gallo out for the Texas Rangers. His week was really good. His first ever career Player of the Week award. He went 11 for 23 with 4 home runs and 11 RBIs. So, great week for him. And then, much to the chagrin of Marlins fans, his second Player of the Week for the season. His fourth in the last 2 months of actual regular season play. Christian Yelich of the Milwaukee Brewers, who went 10 for 16. And out of those 10 hits, 8 of them were home runs. 16 RBIs.
And I think one of the home runs got a family puppy.
Even worse. Dear Lord.
Pull that up on the screen.
Actually,
show the people. And they actually named the dog Yelich.
Oh, no. Okay, so I'll try and pull it up on the screen.
Which I assume is Christian Yelich's nickname.
Yes, it is Christian Yelich's nickname. We called him that a lot back in the day.
Basically, what happened was this family went to a Brewers game. They held up a sign.
Sniff.
The family held up a
Puppy.
sign.
Let's see if I can type it in here real quick. Yelich. Puppy.
But the TLDR of it is this family went to a Brewers game. They held up a sign that said, "If you hit to Yelich, if you hit a home run, we'll get a dog." Sure enough, he hit a home run. And he actually...
It is true. Wow.
He actually was the one who surprised... He arranged it with the parents. He was the one that actually gave them the dog in person.
This is just awful for Marlins fans.
He's making people's dreams come true.
So this is... People are already comparing this to the Miguel Cabrera trade as of right now. Yeah, the Milwaukee Yelich at this point. As for those of you who don't know, Miguel Cabrera, future Hall of Famer right now for the Detroit Tigers, was with the Marlins in our 2003 World Series team. He was a rookie.
He was brought up in, July?
Yes, he was a rookie. He had a walk-off home run against the Devil Rays, and that basically cemented his... gosh darn it, what is this thing? Freaking ads.
Charles,
take that off.
Real Muto is playing like a fake Muto.
What happened?
Charles just commented.
JT Real Muto. We're actually winning that trade for finally with Jorge Alfaro for Real Muto, but maybe the pressure's getting to him. The Phillies are doing well. They're actually losing right now, so never mind.
But actually, they're tied with the Mets for first in the NL East.
Yep. So they're all right. If he can get going, they'll be fine. I'm sure he just has to settle down a bit. But yeah, the Miguel Cabrera was traded for garbage like Cameron Maybin and freaking Andrew Miller. Of course, those two guys would eventually get World Series rings, so everybody lost that trade. Well, actually, everybody won that trade except the Marlins, because Andrew Miller went on to win a World Series ring elsewhere. Cameron Maybin won one with the Astros, and Miguel Cabrera at least got to play in the World Series, and yet the Marlins haven't made the playoffs since. So, what does Godzilla have to do with this? Okay. All right. But the pieces the Marlins got for Yelich, the main one so far, Lewis Brinson, has struggled. They keep batting him 8th, so I don't know how you're going to get a sophomore or a young guy like that to do something in the 8th spot in the lineup. he needs to be sent down to AAA to work out his kinks because I'm sure
That's what she said.
He's actually from South Florida and he's a hometown guy and all that stuff. So I'm sure it's a huge amount of pressure knowing who he got traded for, knowing how good this guy is. So I guess they should just send him back down, but it might be it's kind of a long-term look at the Mutos. That's right, in the latest Godzilla. And the new one's coming out too. I'm going to watch that. Godzilla King of the Monsters. Get some frickin' Rodan and frickin' King Ghidorah up in here. All right, so exactly, baby. King Ghidorah. All right. Long-term view, the Marlins have some things working out in the minor leagues, in their AA and AAA teams with the Yelich trade. So hopefully in 2 or 3 years, that actually comes to fruition. I'm trying to hope that it's kind of like when the Marlins traded Kevin Brown in his prime for some prospects, one of them ending up being Derek Lee, who contributed to our World Series victory and turned out to be a pretty darn good first baseman. But, that's the way baseball is. We just kind of... we might actually lose this trade, but so far the Ozuna trade is kind of working out for us, and as well as the Stanton trade, it's more of a long-term thing. I mean, Giancarlo Stanton still hasn't even returned, right, Charles?
No, he has not. But yet everybody's injured on that team. We are
Yeah,
the unlucky 13.
You have some injury bug going around. I think Aaron Judge just got injured.
Yeah, oblique strain.
Stanton's been injured.
Buddy, the Brooklyn Nets actually scored some points.
Whoa!
It's 25-3 now.
Wow.
Sorry, I just had to make mention of that.
How's the Bruins game going?
It's still 2-1, 6:40 left in the second, and the Magic have recommenced and are still being rightfully spanked by the Raptors at this point. Okay. I don't know. Anything else jumping out, you guys, in baseball? It's just kind of April.
I got a few of them.
Okay. What say you, Charles?
All right. So I'm gonna keep updating it. The Craig Kimbrell and like a watch.
That's true.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just weird to me because you have one starting caliber pitcher. We're not talking about like the guy's number one, but he's definitely a 2-3. And nothing's happening. I understand it's coming to money, but I don't think it's been this long unless he's just not passing like a physical or something of that nature, especially since there's some injuries. I mean, hey, we don't have Luis Severino until July. And I just tell people, look, get him, wait till Severino comes back, decide who you want to move because Happ has been kind of hot garbage lately. His ERA for the season is 7.8 or 7.2. Now, mind you, for baseball fans and non-baseball fans, the idea is that ERAs get ballooned up in the beginning of the season, but he just hasn't, played well, so I'm more advocating for it. But for any kind of rebuilding team like the Marlins, or if you have a team like I'll give an example, like the Mets, who I think they're in the lead for the NL East, but they'll probably fade out once Philly and Atlanta get their thing. You sign a guy, trade him during, right before the All-Star deadline, so you get some young prospects back to build your team even better.
That's what I said the Marlins should do.
Yeah, maybe it costs your team $8 million of the season, whatever. Because I don't know how they want to front load that contract or what have you. But it's the ends justify the means coming to there. And then this has really been like the seasons of injury bugs, not just to starting pitchers, but also to a lot of other players coming in. As in the Yankees, the Red Sox, they just lost Nathan Eovaldi, who is going to get some stuff cleaned out or scoped out from his elbow. So he's out for 4 weeks. So the idea is that this is why you don't listen to the predictions or you see those little power rankings before seasons. They mean nothing once the game's actually played. Everybody's body comes in. But I think also what's exciting for baseball fans is Shohei Ohtani is going to be coming back in a couple of months for a position as designated hitter. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get kind of that momentum as a hitter because he won't be able to pitch at least for another season.
Yeah.
And there's a few other guys out there. It's just always interesting to me because I think if you want to have a big – because, the rebuild is a Marlins idea. Teams are always cut inside the middle and just now getting into the playoffs might be something that go with the Rays. You look to retool or reload. So it's little moves like that, such as by getting Dallas Keuchel and just flipping them. Or I'll give you an example. Josh Donaldson has a 1-year contract with Atlanta. He homered at like 2 first at bats in one game. He's getting that momentum going. There's going to be a lot of teams in the AL East who are like, hey, or not the AL East, but the AL in general, who are like, hey, we might need a designated hitter. And you can get some good prospects, or maybe a utility player to actually put in the field. Do the stuff you need to do for July that you have to do in April. So that's my kind of like baseball talk. The standings don't mean anything really.
Yeah. At this point, once we get to the end of May, that's when we'll start seeing who really is. Like, are the Pirates really this good? Really? Or are the Cubs gonna they're kind of 500 right now? Can the Reds actually do something with all the trades that they made to try and get good? And I mean, really, the only team that really isn't that surprising, the LA Dodgers in first. That's to be expected. And are the Seattle Mariners really this for real? But the same thing happened last season, so who knows? And the Rays were able to prove it last season that they were good, and let's see if they can sustain this sort of momentum.
The joys of small sample sizes. That is correct.
Okay. Anything else jump out for you guys for baseball?
Not really. I mean, I think it's a little too early to tell.
Yeah, that's why I went with just the players of the week, just the standings. All right. Actually, Andrew, what's going on with the Fulmer Cup?
Aha!
It's NFL draft week, as we know, but there's the guys who are still in college. What are they doing?
Well, 1 second. Let me pull up my notes.
Okay, so I guess I will do the disclaimer, as we always do. We are not the official podcast of the Fulmer Cup. The Fulmer Cup is a creation of the Reddit subreddit College Football, RCFB. It is a competition of sorts for college football teams in which fans tally up the score of the arrests for these college football programs, and at the end of it, we will have an off-season champion. So, Andrew, who's been naughty over the last week?
Kind of slow couple of weeks. We've only had one new arrest, and that is Hunter Rison, a wide receiver from Kansas State. In the grand scheme of things, kind of a low-tier arrest. It was domestic battery. There's been a lot worse, although that's pretty bad. But interestingly enough, we had our first coaching arrest.
Juicy. Okay, who is it?
His name is Otis Yelverton of Florida.
The Gators.
The Gators.
Oh, my nipples are hard. Oh.
I'm not even. I guess I think that one's kind of obvious.
Look, you started off the show with that's what she said. All right, so come on now.
Yeah, so that's
you
what she
set
said.
The tone for this show, Andrew. All right,
so,
we were talking about hot dogs and all kinds of stuff today.
So yeah, that's a definite. That's what she said, and I think that makes it 4, maybe 5. I'll have to go back go back and review the tape for next week.
Okay.
Anyway, he is the assistant director of player personnel. So he was arrested for aggravated stalking.
Ooh, even juicier. Oh God.
This one was pretty bad.
Oh, this is making me feel better about our terrible graphic design program at FSU, but which we will see later on.
This one was pretty bad.
Charles, proudly my line of work.
It was his ex-girlfriend, or his girlfriend broke up with him on April 14th.
How old is this man? Or does it say?
It doesn't say.
Okay.
But he seems like he's definitely, above college age, 30s maybe. 40s.
I would hope so.
Well, look him up and tell me what you think. But anyway, he was arrested out in Alachua County, which is where Gainesville is. Arrested actually yesterday. But his girlfriend broke up with him on April 14th. He called, Facebook message, and text the girlfriend over 40 times. Many of those coming after she told him to.
What's this guy?
Otis Yelverton. Many of the messages coming after she told him to stop calling her. But here's where it gets
Definitely
interesting.
looks way older than college age. I have a photo of him.
That's
Okay.
all I can guarantee.
All right.
But I don't know how old he actually is. But here's where it gets interesting, and I think this is what got him arrested. He reportedly left a threatening voice message. Damn it, Charles.
He's 51 years old.
Okay. So he left a threatening voice message. Again, innocent until proven guilty. We as lawyers know that better than anyone. But he left, reportedly left a Chuck's tomato. He left a voice message on April 21st. Or he was arrested because he left a voice message telling the girlfriend he would blow up her car. Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance?
So yeah, that's so the one arrest for the K-State player, and then Mr. Yelverton here. Kind of a slow week, relatively speaking, but yeah, that's our Fulmer Cup update for the week. Still, University of New Hampshire in the lead with 20 points, thanks to a group effort of 4 players who were arrested for felony riot due to a huge brawl that broke out at a frat house.
Okay. All right. So I'm happy. That's for sure. It was a great week. It's a very great week.
But in
family reunions awkward.
Alrighty. Okay, so
what's next?
What is next? Because
NFL draft.
Well, I'm not really ready to talk about the NFL draft. Actually, we should talk about it next week when it actually happens. Because, but I wanted to make a little segment here. A better know my minor league team, and guys,
I like it.
We're gonna go to my favorite city in the world. El Paso, Texas, baby. We're going to learn all about the El Paso Chihuahuas. All right?
This is... What was that, Charles?
Chihuahua.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a very large place in my heart for the Chihuahuas because I own a Chihuahua, and the dog that I had before my dear Luna was also a Chihuahua. So one of these days, I'm going to end up getting an El Paso Chihuahuas hat just because.
All right. So and I remember at the airport, I asked you if you wanted something, and you didn't choose to buy it then, but I'm sure you'll get something in the future.
Yeah.
All right. So the El Paso Chihuahua is based out of beautiful El Paso, Texas, one of the safest cities in America, by the way. They were established in 2014, so they are a fairly new franchise. But in actuality, they're not. They actually date back all the way to 1903. If you look at their affiliation history, they used to be the Tucson Padres out in Tucson, Arizona. Before that, the Albuquerque Dukes, before the Isotopes got there.
Well, wait a minute. What about Portland?
That's right. They were the Portland Beavers before that, and then Albuquerque, and then the Spokane Indians. There is currently a Spokane Indians, but it's not the same.
Spokane. Sorry, our Washington viewers are going to kill you over that one.
All right. But they have a racist name, so whatever. And before that, they were the original Los Angeles Angels, the minor league franchise that was there before the LA Dodgers moved. When the LA Dodgers moved from Brooklyn to Los Angeles, the LA Angels left. I think were suspended and then reemerged as the Spokane Indians. The LA Angels, the current Los Angeles Angels, were created in 1961, and the Los Angeles Dodgers actually used the hat logo of the Los Angeles Angels for their current hat logo. They're interlocking LA. The LA, for the only difference between that one and the old one is that the A on the LA had a little halo on it. So the Dodgers' current design is actually the LA Angels, this original LA Angels team.
Ooh, we have a fight in the Boston-Toronto game.
There's a fight? Really?
Yes, according to BU.
Okay. I can see it there on the corner of the screen. So, but it is the end of the second, and we are into the second intermission. 2-1 Bruins over the Leafs. Holy crap, are the Raptors destroying the Magic at this point. And so are the Sixers.
We won a game. I'll take it.
Yeah.
We made the city of Orlando happy that we had a bit of success.
An after-period scrap. Okay, that was to be expected at this point after 7 games and division rivals at this point, and original 6 teams. All right. The El Paso Chihuahuas are the current affiliation. They're currently affiliated with the San Diego Padres. They won the 2016 Pacific Coast League Championship, and they play out in beautiful Southwest University Park, which also opened in 2014. Holds about 7,500 to 10,000 people, depending on the event. Voted the best ballpark when it opened in 2014, and they are hosting the Pacific Coast League All-Star Game this year. So we're gonna go out to El Paso, Texas, and do a live show from there, hopefully.
Hey, I'd be down for that.
I'd be down for it too. Their current mascot is named Chico, the Chihuahua, which makes sense. Out in the border between U.S. and Mexico, and they don't really have that great of notable players, being such a young franchise. But the one that I pulled up is the beautiful Jeff Francoeur.
If anyone wants to learn more about him, SB Nation did a great. Actually, it was John Boyce.
That's John Boyce when he was still alive.
The one and only. Did a great breakdown of. I think he called him the best worst player in baseball history, and that was just generally. That was a very good video. There's a lot of good videos.
Jeff Francoeur has since retired since 2017. And is currently the Braves color analyst.
Makes sense. He came up with the Braves. Sorry, I've got the Rays on my mind.
All right, so that is my better know a minor league team. It's a new segment I'm trying to do to know a bunch of these baseball and basketball and hockey minor league teams out there. There's about hundreds of them at this point. So it's a little nice trip down there. Maybe you guys can suggest one. We can go down the rabbit hole of these teams.
Well, one that I'd like to, or a little note that I'd like to just put in about El Paso. The Chihuahuas are the first team in El Paso after the dissolution of the El Paso Diablos, which were a Double-A team. And the reason I know them is they played in the Texas League. Back when I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're in the same league as my Tulsa Drillers. So I saw them play a couple of times, which was fun. Nice. And they were most recently, they were the Diamondbacks minor league team.
Okay.
So that's my 2 cents put in about the El Paso minor league.
All right. So that's El Paso Chihuahuas. We will try and have another team next week so you can learn more about their history and whatnot. Okay, boys. We've got about 13 minutes left. So, all right. So, I have a player we can remember to forget as well.
Fine by me.
We haven't done this segment in a while, actually. It's been a long while. So players we remember to forget are we go down memory lane, find a bunch of old players, and we just go down the rabbit hole and figure out what the heck they're doing with their lives. We don't want a situation where the Sacramento Kings broadcast team forgot that Robert Tractor Trailer died a few years ago, and they were making fun of him. So. We try and, respect these guys because, it's nostalgia for a lot of us. So my guy is a player by the name of Glenallen Hill. I don't know if you guys recall that name.
I do, although I do, and actually for the longest time, always get nostalgic and teary-eyed. I'm sure Charles knows him because he played for the Yanks. I mostly remember him because I always thought his name was, I don't know. I never realized it was Glenallen. I always thought it was like Glenallen or something like that. I don't know. I always mispronounced it. I don't remember what, but then my mind was blown when I realized it was Glenallen. Anyway.
Okay, so Glenallen Hill. Whoa, what the heck was that? I almost died. Glenn Allen Hill. He is currently the manager of the Albuquerque Isotopes of Simpsons fame, or vice versa, actually.
And that's funny because you brought up Albuquerque earlier with the Chihuahuas.
Yes, the Dukes were the previous team in Albuquerque. They left for was it Tucson or Portland, and then the Isotopes took their place. He won the World Series in 2000 with Charles's beloved New York Yankees. Mm-hmm. He hit .271 over his career, 186 home runs, 1,005 hits, and 586 RBIs. So a respectable career, I would say, especially with that World Series ring. I don't know what. Did he have any impact, or was he just one of those guys on the bench, Charles? Just a depth guy?
Just on his stats, he played mostly designated hitter, hit 16 home runs, and then was in postseason, played in 4 games against the Oakland A's, and was 1 for 12 with 2 runs batted in, so did nothing there, didn't do anything in ACLS. And against the Mets, he played in 3 games going for 0 for 3. So it was more of a ceremonious ring that he got during the playoffs. I mean, 16 is not bad as a designated hitter when they were usually alternate like 2, sometimes 3, depending on who you have. I don't remember the complete roster in 2000, so get back to me on that. But, he wasn't the most memorable person. He was more of a body.
Okay, so just one of those guys at the end of the bench, very far away from our beloved savior, Derek Jeter. One of the interesting tidbits of his career and his life was a certain spell he spent on the what's it called, the IL now, right? It's the IL. It's no longer called the disabled list for, I guess, PC reasons, technical reasons, things like that. But now it's the injured list, as it's called in Major League Baseball, which is all right. So in his early career, Glenn Hill was forced to go on the DL after suffering injuries during a sleepwalking incident. He is an arachnophobe, so thus he is afraid of spiders.
That sucks, man.
He had a nightmare about being attacked by spiders, and in the process went sleepwalking to try and get away from them. When he woke up, he had cuts all over his hands and feet due to walking across shards of broken glass from a table he knocked over, and he also fell down a flight of stairs. His teammates afterwards started calling him Spider-Man.
Oh, God.
That was in, I forgot what year. I think that was in the 90s when he was with either the Indians or the Cubs. He spent most of his career with the Chicago Cubs, and 5 seasons actually with the Cubs. And he retired in 2001 as a member of the Angels. And so, yeah, Glenn Allen Hill. That's our player remember to forget.
And I actually just found this. I guess this goes along with the That's What She Said of our episode.
Our theme for this,
right.
for this 23rd episode.
He used to be the manager of the minor league Modesto Nuts. Obviously, we're not talking about the colloquial term for a male body part, but it's...
You know what it is? I think it was watching that comedy show. They were throwing out all these curse words and all that stuff. It kind of emboldened us to do that
exactly.
on our show.
But their mascot is a literal nut. It looks like almost like a... I don't know, I guess an almond?
Actually, I'm gonna look that up actually real quick. Well,
actually, they have 3. They have Al the almond, Wally the walnut, and Shelly the pistachio. But it looks like the almond is their official logo.
So Modesto Nuts.
They actually have a walnut on there too. So they have the almond and the almond and the walnut.
So kind of better know a minor league team. They have a secondary logo up there, and yeah, okay. So go Nuts. We could talk about them next week, actually, if we want. So
yeah,
we'll do the Modesto Nuts next week. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they look pretty out there, very sure of themselves, very confident fellows. So I don't know. I don't think they're that modest.
Okay, so we're coming out towards the end of the show.
6 minutes remaining, ladies and gentlemen.
6 minutes remaining, guys. We've talked about baseball. We've talked about hockey. The Raptors are about to put up triple digits on the Magic, and it's only the end of the third.
Oof.
And
should we go to another fan opinion question?
Sure, why not? I mean, we covered one. We already talked about. Okay, so first baseball game, guys. What was your first experience at a baseball game of any sort of level whatsoever? I mean, we could go level by level as well, but minor leagues and Major League Baseball.
I guess I'll start. I don't remember my first game since I was pretty young, but my family and I would go to a lot of Tulsa Driller games. And bear in mind, I lived there from when I was born until I was 9.
Were they single A?
Double.
Double A. Okay.
And still are. They used to be the Texas Rangers affiliate. And a lot of very famous players went through there before my time. But Sammy Sosa went through there. Pudge Rodriguez went through there. That's the two that I remember off the top of my head. But the one that really kind of stands out to me now is Fernando Tatis. His son is now a big league star, and I remembered seeing Tatis back when he was in the minors. So my first baseball games were with them, the Double A Tulsa Drillers. And my first major league game, I saw a lot of spring training games when I lived in Orlando, because back then there were 2 teams in Orlando proper, one in Kissimmee, or 2 technically in Kissimmee. Well, one in Lake Buena Vista was the Braves at Wide World of Sports, Disney. Then one in Kissimmee, which is the Houston Astros. And then the Lakeland, over in Lakeland was and is the Detroit Tigers, and that's about an hour away from Orlando.
Yeah, they're the Lakeland Flying Tigers now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, but my first major league game, regular season, I forget the date, but it was in 2007, May of 2007, between the Marlins, which I was a fan of at the time, and the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. About a year later, I switched allegiances, but yeah, that was my first major league game, and I actually won the tickets from my phys ed
This
teacher.
man says he doesn't win things, and he's just talking about all the stuff that he's winning. You won stuff at the Panthers game. You won.
No. You.
Okay. Well. Okay. Yeah. I shot the game-winning goal. I was Bobby Orr, but
But yeah, I won it through. I took phys ed online with Florida Virtual School, and I won the contest to get 2 tickets from the teacher who was a season ticket holder. So yeah, that was my first. That's my kind of my summary.
Okay. How about you, Charles?
1998 spring training game, Florida Marlins against the Cleveland Indians. Don't really remember much of it. I just know it was where I was living at that point when I was growing up, which was at Winter Haven. I remember the gear that we got was those little hats that had Chief Wahoo on there. I guess they were selling both, all apparels. I don't really remember much. I don't remember what I saw. I just remember that particularly, and then the item that we got, which my father kept, who doesn't really care for sports, but he loves like some free things. I think we went off of something, but that's when I was about 8, and it was an interesting experience because, baseball or any sport, when you like one team and you don't care for other teams, can be kind of great. But that's how I knew watching it. I was like, okay, I can at least watch the sport and be entertained if it's somebody that's not my team. And that's why I like going to live events every couple of years, whether it be baseball, basketball, or even hockey.
Okay, how about your first regular season game?
Yankees, Rays, 2010. I went with my sister, my ex-girlfriend, a couple of friends. I got to see Mariano. I was like smitten like a kid. We were there. It was A-Rod trying to break the big number, trying to break the record, get home run number 700. And when he wasn't in the starting lineup until they were behind. So he comes up pinch hitter, and then that first pitch, I've never seen so many cameras just kind of light up, and you go blind there. So it was intense. Of course, he hit that home run several days later in Toronto, but it was freaking awesome.
Okay. So out in Tropicana Field then. Okay. So 2 guys out in Tropicana Field. Well, my first game, I think it might have been a Marlins game, but I don't remember anything of it. I don't remember the opponent. I just remember we went to the game at the, currently Hard Rock Stadium, home of the Miami Dolphins and the Miami Hurricanes. But the first regular season game that I actually remember, and which is when I was starting to really, really get into baseball, was during 1998, during the home run race between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. We got tickets to see the Cubs one visit down here to Miami. Unfortunately, Sammy Sosa did not hit a home run that day, but I was a fan of his, and I got to see Sammy Sosa play in front of me, so that was great. I've seen him play. I saw Sammy Sosa play in front of me 3 times. One of them in 2004, he hit a massive home run against Dontrelle Willis, and we left the game early because the Marlins just getting spanked, and then the other time in Boston, I went to Fenway Park, and they were facing the Texas Rangers, and Sammy was there. He didn't hit a home run that day, though. But yeah, I saw Sammy Sosa hit a home run at least, so that was a good, nice thing to see in my life. So that was my first regular season game. Minor league, I saw the old West Palm Beach Expos when the Montreal Expos were still a thing, and played out in old West Palm Beach Stadium, which has been torn down and is currently a Home Depot. And that's our non-sponsor for this episode, folks. So Home Depot, that's what she said is the promo code. All right, boys, 2 hours. I think we're good for the show.
Yeah. This is an interesting one.
All right, so very interesting, very, very erotic. I enjoyed it. So thanks, everybody. This is Francisco and Andrew and Charles. Thank you to the guys who watched, BU, Mikey, and all the gentlemen and ladies out there. Congratulations to the Raptors. We're moving on to the next round, and to the Sixers as well, just prematurely. We'll see what happens between the Bruins and the Leafs later on, and we'll talk about it next week. And yeah, that's it, guys. So that's all. Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Eat a hot dog.